turn this on. I would like to begin by thanking Professor Rogan for inviting me and for this introduction, and to my dear friend Hussein Aga and Ahmed Khaldi, and distinguished members of the Middle East Center, for having me speak for the 43rd. That's a good number. Overall, I'm not looking at this as an invitation to صائب عريقات. I think it's a message that Palestine matters to the academic community. This evening, I'm going to speak about what I have done for the past 3 decades. As a matter of fact, I have one item in my CV, negotiator. And I don't want to end up with the quote-unquote failed negotiator. Pursuing the freedom of the state of Palestine, because no one benefits more from achieving peace with Israel more than Palestinians, and no one stands to lose more in the absence of peace more than Palestinians. I never felt that I'm doing the Israelis a favor when I sit with them, when I negotiate with them. And I hope and pray that the day will come when they will reciprocate this feeling with me. They need peace as much as I do. If we are going to talk about Palestinian statehood, we are in essence talking about the Palestinian right to self-determination. To speak here, I just cannot forget Britain's historic responsibility for the denial of my people of their national rights. Since the issuance of the Balfour Declaration. And to talk about this period, it's impossible not to talk about George Antonis. True, he is mainly remembered for his intellectual work, such as the Arab Awakening, but it would not make justice to his work not to talk about what he did as practitioner in Palestine. In fact, if we were to talk about Palestinian diplomacy, and Ambassador Hussam Zumrud, our ambassador to the UK, is here. George Antoinius was one of the most distinguished representatives as part of the teams that tried to pressure the United Kingdom to honor its obligations under the mandate system and allow for national independence of the Palestinian people. Professor Antoinius passed away before the Nakba, or catastrophe, but his work and arguments alongside some of his notable Palestinian colleagues, such as Henry Cotton and Musa al-Alami, who, by the way, could be named the first Palestinian foreign minister, could never be seen without his true contribution as a Palestinian diplomat, even though he wasn't a Palestinian. Palestine was divided and the Nakba happened, but was not out of the lack of legal, political, and moral arguments that we were brilliantly expressed as by heroes such as George Antoinius. Some still talk about the missing opportunities of the Palestinians, but truly believe that George Antoinius is an excellent example that no matter the arguments the Arab had in support of Palestinian self-determination, the fate of Palestinians had already been decided. The Nakba was not an accident of history, but a well-planned process that involved Western support for the denial of the Palestinian people's right to self-determination. and practical actions on the ground that conducted by Zionist organizations led to the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. Put it this way, in 1948, the rights of the Palestinian people were not a priority for London, nor for Washington, nor for Moscow, and probably nor for many Arabs. They all, for different reasons, became parties to the tragedy of a nation that has been extended until today, and that has not only deprived us, Palestinians, of our inalienable rights of self-determination, but the whole region of enjoying peace and security. In 1979, I had just returned, finishing my bachelor's and master's in the States, began lecturing at Najah University, and as usual, without thinking, I decided to go outside the box. And I wrote an op-ed article, front page article in the Quds newspaper. I was 24, telling Palestinians to recognize the state of Israel, renounce violence, and go to negotiations. The only thing that came to my mind at that moment is I had the choice. I could pursue in my life the comfortable position, or I could take the right position. I decided to take the right position. But I didn't know the heavy price people who take the right position would pay. Every minute of their lives. 3 months ago, I was in a show called Good Morning America with Madam Nikki Haley, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, the ex-U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. And it was a live show, and she looked me in the eyes and told me that Palestinians are cowards, lack courage, and they need strong leaders, and that we have the habit of missing opportunities. So in my mind, what does she know about courage? So I looked at her and asked her to shut up. In life, shut up. And if you shut up, your IQ may increase. I have with me my wife, 38 years, Nama. This lady and I had twin daughters, 1982. They were 11 in 1993, with a son named Ali and a son named Muhammad. One is 2 years and one is 5 years. Palestinian thugs and hoodlums came to her. I was not in the house, I was in Washington, with torches, swords, knives, guns. And it took us 7 years to salvage our daughters in therapy. And this lady is telling me that we lack courage and we lack experience not to miss opportunities. In 1979, my classes were boycotted. I was a social outcast. But as I said, I felt and I knew that no one benefits more from achieving peace with Israel more than Palestinians. And no one stands to lose more in the absence of peace more than us. And I've seen some of my colleagues who took the line assassinated by other Palestinians in many capitals in Europe. I've seen extremists in the region using Palestine there rather than serving Palestine, and I still see that till today. We are referring to an important moment. 79 meant the late 70s and early 80s. This period endorsing the two-state solution was not only difficult, was a treason as far as Palestinian politics is concerned. Was taken, and less than 11 years later, 10 years later, in 1988, the Palestine Liberation Organization, headed by President Yasser Arafat and people like President Mahmoud Abbas and others, recognized the state of Israel as a two-state solution and accepted all the demands put to us, accepting 242 and 338. And also, there were 9 European countries at that time, 1979, called European something. Keep changing your names, exiting and whatever. And these 9 countries issued in 1979 the Venice Declaration. And their statement said, the 9 stressed the need for Israel to put an end to the territorial occupation which it had maintained since the conflict of 1967, as it has done for the part of Sinai. They are deeply convinced that Israeli settlements constitute a serious obstacle to peace in the Middle East, and the 9 consider that these settlements, as well as modifications in population and property in the occupied Arab territories, are illegal under international law. They were 9. Today there are 28. You still have, you don't have, there is not a foreign policy. You still have 28 foreign policies. And yesterday, Ambassador Zumlut, for 12 hours, I think, non-stop, made me meet everybody in all parties and all cabinets in London. I had one message to these people. When you say 2 states, you should recognize 2 states. That's the logic. What prevents you from recognizing the state of Palestine to live side by side in peace and security with the state of Israel? Timing. That was the British answer for me. 2 days ago, I was meeting with the Secretary of State of Germany, Sir Anus, and he could not do the recognition because of history. The Spanish are waiting for the French. The Belgians are waiting for the Luxembourg. I don't know who's waiting for what. And they're not seeing what's happening. To the Palestinians who stood tall to recognize the state of Israel, to renounce violence, to live and let live, and who devoted their lives for peace and coexistence. What's the cost of the UK recognizing Palestine? They'll give me oxygen for another year as Palestinian moderate, not as صائب عريقات, to go to Palestinian kids and young men and women and tell them, don't despair. You're not alone. Britain recognized them. Don't resort to violence. We're not going to get it. The time is wrong to save the Palestinian peace camp. And when we go down, which we're not sustainable, I'm sure that somebody may not be called Benjamin Netanyahu. I don't know who will be called in 5 years. He may come and lecture. Oh, we want peace. You know, Israelis want peace and so on, but we don't have a partner. And I'm sure that nobody will tell them, you had people who recognized you and so on and so on and so on, because now, if you say anything against occupation, there is an evil force on earth that's trying to equate this with anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is evil. Anti-occupation is noble. And those twisted minds who are trying to mix the two are pushing us from a political conflict to a religious conflict. Judaism, to me as a Palestinian, was never a threat, is not a threat, will never be a threat. I don't fight the Israelis over something written in their holy Torah. I fight the Israelis because they're my occupiers, because of their settlements, because of their collective punishment. And those evil forces who are trying to turn this conflict into a religious one have not even bothered to research, because had they researched, they would find out that ISIS is number 803 in political Islam since my Prophet, God bless him, died. Of those who go to mosques to use God rather than worship God. Those are thugs, murderers, and criminals. And as Arabs, we have not acted more cowardly as we did in the last 30 years. We did not stand tall to revisit our economic structures, our social structure, our educational structures. We should begin by teaching our children in the kindergarten how to live for Allah, not to die for Allah. We're not doing it. We're not doing it. And then we have a new force coming to Earth, from I don't know which planet. President Trump and his team. I think I hold the record of having held 37 meetings with these people, 4 of which at the level of the presidents, and 33 others between myself and colleagues with Jared Kushner, Jason Greenblatt, and Friedman. What do you do with people who say that it's not Trump that recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital? It's God. What do you do to someone who 3 weeks ago in 2019 says that God sent Trump to save the Jews? And the response came from where? Professor Rogan came from Tehran. Jawad Zarif responded by saying to Pompeo, it was a Persian king, Cyrus, who saved the Jews from extinction. It was a Persian king who brought back Jews from exile. And it was these Negev people, Arabs, who always tried to exterminate Jews. Went to Madrid. And Madrid, as I said, Professor, I was the deputy head of the delegation, and I looked at all delegations with suits, ties, and these things, and I was born for this moment. Because this Shamir, he's in the record. There is no such a thing as a Palestinian. So I wanted to sit face to face with him. My seat was really, by luck, directly to his eyes. So the kufiya was a good thing to remind him. I am the representatives of those people who lived in my hometown, Jericho, 11,000 years in the oldest ongoing city on earth, and I'm here to represent them. So when he saw the kufiya, he was so angry, he looked at this. So I kept looking at him, and then he looked at it like this, looked at him. And then I winked at him. And the price for this was, I couldn't enter the State Department for 8 months when we began the negotiations in Washington. That's true. We did recognize the State of Israel, right to exist, and live in peace and security, on 1967 lines, as was demanded from us. We accepted a Palestinian state with East Jerusalem's capital and the 67 borders, 22% of the land. And we did so many other things. And I remember James Baker, Secretary Baker, telling me in my house in Jericho, actually, صائب, take the bus. Recognize Israel. Accept 242 and 338. Renounce violence. Go to negotiations. I took the bus. I'm in Ulaanbaatar somewhere and still going. Ulaanbaatar is the capital of Mongolia now. And many people say Saab Caritat's been negotiating for too long, the chief negotiator. Actually, I'm the 9th Palestinian in that post. So we have so many. But the point here I never felt I'm doing a job. I never felt, even though I'm the product of Western theories of practices of negotiations and conflict resolution, turned out to be totally irrelevant to my part of the world. I have learned that negotiations and negotiators, whether I like this or not, sometimes may feel better off without an agreement, especially if they have public pressure, if they have. I'm not saying that Israelis and Palestinians are better than anyone, and they're not worse than anyone. They're normal. They have good people, they have bad people, they have honest, dishonest, they have courageous, coward, whatever. I have met prime ministers in Israel who wanted to see Israel's security 300 years from today. It's Rabi. And I sat with the prime minister of Israel who wanted to see himself at the 10 o'clock news that evening, Benjamin Netanyahu. And that educated me to a new chapter in negotiations. A, non-negotiators, and B, tough negotiators. And with non-negotiators, God help us. We have a school now called the Art of Negotiations of Trump. Even though he has a book called The Art of Negotiations, which I read. The Art of the Deal. President Roosevelt once said that the White House is an office of international morality. I couldn't agree more. This White House needs giant statesmen, not real estate agents. And don't be mistaken, in 2017, I had 4 American generals in my hometown, Jericho, training my security forces. We were the closest allies. We did not declare war on the US. President Trump, in the presence of Ambassador Zumlot, on May 3rd, 2017, the White House promised my president that he will give negotiations 1 year without taking any steps that may preempt or prejudge issues related to permanent status, including Jerusalem. November 30th, 2017, I was with Hussam in the White House, Jared's office, and I told him, tomorrow you're going to sign the waiver not to move the embassy, and he said, we're not. We're not. So I told him, oh, this could be the last meeting between you and any Palestinian. And he looked at me angrily, shouted, don't threaten us. That's what he said. I said, I can't stand guards in your lips. I haven't developed the technique yet to stand guards in people's lips or stand guards in people's way of thinking. But mark my word, do it. And you put me in a position, in the art of the deal of yours, that I have nothing to lose. And I did not mandate anyone to negotiate on my behalf. I did not. And that was that. We don't talk to them, and we will not talk to them. Non-negotiators, it's a waste of time. And people who comply with the instructions of the masters in Washington because of their interest or the definition of their interests, that's their business. I don't interfere in anyone's internal affairs. Nation states are no more. The system humans have developed since 1945, after the second big war, is collapsing. There is the United States Corporation of America headed by a CEO called Donald Trump. With all due respect to the UK corporation, there is a CEO now called Theresa May. I don't know who will be tomorrow. And to the 193 other nations, president, mayors, kings, they are, in view, in the eyes of Trump, are CEOs. I pay you here, pay you there. I expect back payments here and there. And to those who want to listen to him and cannot say no to him, and he using the balance of contradictions as interest and whatsoever, that's none of my business. But to everybody, pay it from your pockets, not mine. Not mine. I will not sit with non-negotiators anymore. That's the first lesson I learned. Whether we like it or not, I learned that we should understand the concerns and fears and expectations of the other side. And to those Palestinians sitting here, I'm not advocating that we should understand settlers and settlements and confiscation of land and war crimes or apartheid. But what I'm saying, you cannot reach an agreement in presenting a just cause or good positions or arguments. It's about a matrix of common ground based on interests. And interests, definitions in politics, requires visionaries. For me, things are not on whether one is good or bad. The measurement is whether someone is going to advance more with or without an agreement. And it seems to me that to Benjamin Netanyahu, who I've known for 33 years, he's a master at exporting fear. Leaders should export hope, should remove obstacles, should create opportunities. But to be leaders simply because they're good at exporting fear, that's disaster. Based on 3 pillars. 1, they want a Palestinian authority but without any real authorities. Secondly, they want a cost-free occupation. And thirdly, they want Gaza off the limits of the West Bank. The most important point to me and to the Israelis is to ask ourselves a question. We've been there for a long time, and each one of us thought it could be solved in accordance with the zero-sum game. It will not be solved in accordance with the zero-sum game. Since Eve negotiated Adam, I may be the most disadvantaged negotiator in history of men and women. I have no army, no navy, no air force, no economy. Our people are fragmented. I know that Israel has 5,000 tanks, 3,000 fighting planes, and nuclear weapons. If it's my word against any of them in the Congress and the Senate, I don't stand a chance. And who said life is about fairness and justice? Question to them, what are you going to do with me? From my hometown, Jericho, I am the Christian and Muslim Palestinian, 50.9% of the population. Benjamin Netanyahu is 49.1% of the population. And I advise my Israeli and Jewish friends, when they say we need to have 2 states to preserve the nature of Israel as a Jewish state, I urge them not to say this, not to Palestinians. I urge them to look at Palestinians. They're your neighbors. Reach out to them. Tell them we want a Palestinian state because you have the right to self-determination. You're our neighbors. We're equals. We want to live and let live. Because those who want the two states in Israel use this argument. And I hope they can use it with Palestinians in a different way. Because how you reach out to the other side in any conflict, in public opinion, is very, very important. When it comes to that third party in the negotiations, I also learned that Israelis and Palestinians are going to make peace in the negotiating table. And if Israelis and Palestinians don't make peace, nobody else will make it for them. Period. Americans, Europeans, Arabs, Latins, Africans, Chinese, whoever, they all want to see an agreement between Palestinians and Israelis. They're all willing to do whatever it takes to see an agreement materialize. If we don't help ourselves as Israelis and Palestinians, nobody else will. Number 6, things change. I learned that. I learned that the hard way. Nothing stays the same. Balances of power change. And to be very honest with you, I'm not that intelligent to be a pessimist. I tried once as a young researcher in 1989 at Jamiah University about South Africa. And I came out with a brilliant study. It was refereed and published, predicting that this country is going to receive blood. And the Africans and de Klerk surprised us and changed course at the right time. And I hope that Israelis will change course at the right time. Not because they will wake up one morning and feel their conscience aching for my suffering. And to be fair, I did not wake up one morning and felt my conscience aching for the suffering of Israelis that I sit with them. I do it as a cardinal interest for me. If not this year, in 10 years, in 50 years, the only option will be a two-state solution. State of Palestine with East Jerusalem its capital to live side by side the state of Israel on the 1967 lines. And to those who believe that power can bring people like us to their knees and surrender, and Christian Palestinians should add another prayer to Sunday, maybe Wednesday, throw holy water in people's faces, and Muslims to add a 6th prayer to their 5 prayers a day because we live under Israeli occupation. That's what the Trump team wants us to do. Professor, they know my interest better than I do. They know what I need better than I do. They know what kind of education our children should go through better than we do. They know what's good for our economy better than we will do. St. John Hospital has been operating in East Jerusalem as the only eye hospital for the poor Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza and East Jerusalem for the last 123 years. President Trump cut the aid to that hospital. We have the only cancer center in East Jerusalem, in a Lutheran hospital called Augusta Victoria. President Trump and his team cut the aid to that hospital. United Nations Relief and Work Agency was established by an American proposal in 1949, known as Resolution 302. That said, UNRWA will shoulder its responsibility towards refugees till it solves the problem from all its aspects. They cut $350 million to UNRWA. We have 544,000 students in the refugee camps in Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and Palestine. 309 health centers. We have an NGO called Seeds of Peace that I established with Queen Noor, Shimon Peres, and John Wallach to bring Israeli kids and Palestinian kids together to know each other very early. They cut the aid to this organization. And they're calling next week for a conference in Manama called Prosperity to Peace. Do we have neons in our forehead saying stupid? And we were in Mecca in the Arab Emergency Summit. And President Abbas spoke to the Arab leaders there and told them, we're not going to go as Palestinians. And we urge you not to go. And we didn't mandate anyone. Nobody even bothered to consult us. And what really bothers me is when somebody receives an invitation and he says to Kushner, okay, I'll go. Oh, I'm going for Palestinian interests. Don't say this sentence. This conference is about prosperity for settlers and settlements. You will see charts and maps with colors tomorrow. Electricity grids in Jenin based on settlements because they want the integration between Palestinian towns, villages, and refugee camps with settlements. Water supplies in Jericho, sewage in Hebron, everything linked to settlements. Today they have been in office for 28 months. Did anyone here in this room the term occupation by any of them? Did any of you hear two states? Did any one of you hear settlements are illegal? No. What they want in Manama is to change the concept of Palestinian rights to Palestinian needs. Yes, you have the right to education, but your children should not learn about these maps or this history. You have ID cards, it's going to be green for you and blue for the Israelis. You can drive cars in certain streets, and you're going to have license plates that are white and green, and Israelis will have yellow. There is a deeper apartheid system that exists in the West Bank and East Jerusalem today than that existed in South Africa's darkest hours of apartheid. In my experience, I have not wasted a minute negotiating with the Israelis. We came a long way. In 2008, we exchanged maps with the most courageous Israeli prime minister I encountered, Ehud Olmert. He gave us a map. He drew it in a napkin that specified 6.5% trade-offs, swaps, in size and value, and he added to my president, and I was president there, and I would say it, we add 20 square kilometers to the size of the West Bank and Gaza and East Jerusalem, just to make you say that we got more land. And with this hand, on behalf of my president, I handed him 5 days later a map of a 1.9% swaps. So had anyone, of course he was brought down. There's an American gentleman named Sheldon Adelson. He spent 1 billion shekels, $300 million, to bring him down and send him to jail. Created a newspaper even, distributed freely to do that. And he's, by the way, one of the mentors of Trump. And all you could have done is, the 1.9 that we gave is not, time is up. I told you I talk too much. The 1.9 we give in our map is not Quranic. And the 6.5 is not in the Bible or the Torah. Anyone reach an agreement could sit down. Trump will bring the Russians, the Chinese, the Europeans, Saudis, the Jordanians, the Egyptians, all the stakeholders, and see what's the bridging proposal between the 6.5 and the 1.9, and you have the deal. But the whole terms of references that were provided for and created since 1948 are now being canceled by the Trump administration and this team. That's what's happening. I'm not saying that previous American administrations were not one-sided towards Israel. They all were. But at least on 27th of January 2017, a week into President Trump's first, or taking office first, the website said 2 states, 67 agreed swaps, settlements are illegal, obstacle to peace, East Jerusalem is occupied, and its annexation is null and void. Now this is cancelled. And these people want to change the concept land for peace to money for peace. Palestine is not for sale. Jerusalem is not for sale. Not in a year, not in 1,000 years. And Israelis, I don't think in 2019 they can gather us in camps and start killing us. For one reason. Palestinians are not in the habit of dying standing on lines. Secondly, they may start mass expulsions to us. And that's not going to happen. Not because we count on Euro-Western civilization and holding Netanyahu accountable and, charging him and stop him doing things with impunity, as you do. Because, yes, there are people like me who believe in 2 states, believe in violence, saving lives, and that's what I've done. But I will not give up on this, not now. I was giving a lecture at one of the Palestinian universities recently, and when one young man, I think 19 years old, stood up, and I had to go through a medical procedure, small one, a lung transplant, an open heart surgery last year. So that young kid told me, congratulations, and next time we hope that you do a tongue transplant. He wasn't joking. And I think this young man will make it in Palestinian politics. It's very, very cruel. He told me, I've been listening to صائب عريقات since I was in my mother's womb. 2 states, peace, non-violent. We're sick and tired of you. For God's sake, you're a professor, go write your memoirs. You almost died last year without any written things left. Enough. And believe me, if you go to Palestinian streets today and ask people, they're so angry. Their anger will be 20% Trump, 20% Netanyahu, 60% me at me. Why? Not because they abandoned the 2-state solution. They're angry because I could not deliver. I was prevented to deliver. Because of your watch and timing and history and this and that and that, and because Netanyahu stands up in his election campaign and say, my trade with the EU in 2009 when I came to office stood at 16.2 billion euros. Today, March 2019, it's 39.7 billion euros. Why should you vote for somebody else? I'm doing settlements, I'm confiscating land, I'm committing crimes, extrajudicial killing, sieging Gaza, being rewarded. The 7th lesson I learned is when the timing of people is wrong, and when real powers, economic or military, don't understand that power means more responsibility. We go towards disaster. And Palestinians and Israelis like the science of physics. There is no such thing as a vacuum. If now Trump and Netanyahu wants to undermine the 2-state solution, if Palestinians think that they can do it through 1 state, equal rights, which is, by the way, a very civilized concept for Jews, Muslims, and Christians to live as equals. But I tell my Palestinian people, it's not doable. They will never accept it as Israelis. And Trump and his team and Netanyahu believe today that it's 1 state, 2 systems. in the absence of hope in the minds of Palestinians and Israelis, there'll be blood. I would like to conclude by saying that 30 years of quest for Palestinian statehood, 71 years of quest for return, 52 years of quest for ending the occupation, and all landmarks that we could mention here continue to be a black mark for the international community. It is immoral that Palestinians still cannot coexist and exercise the right to self-determination, which is, by the way, supported by every country on earth, except for Israel. Not all Israel, half Israel. The official position of the United Kingdom is 2 states on the 1967. That's the official position of Argentina. And that's the official position of Nigeria, Japan, Thailand. And I once told Jared Kushner, if you can find a Chinese negotiator, a Thai, Guatemalan to do the job for me, please do it. Please do it. We have recognized the state of Israel's right to exist and live in peace and security on the 1967 line. And I'm concluding by saying we have presented a plan on February 20th, 2018 by President Abbas to the Security Council, reiterating the 2-state solution, international law, the rule of law, non-violence, and to live and let live. And now Mr. Ardan, the Minister of Strategic Things in Israel, I don't know what they mean by strategic things in Israel, in a Jerusalem Post conference 2 days ago in New York, the first thing that must happen is we must get rid of Mahmoud Abbas. You know what? Just imagine in Oxford, and you see the IQ 170 and above. If Mother Teresa were to be announced tomorrow the president of Palestine, Montesquieu to be the speaker of the Palestinian parliament, and Thomas Jefferson were to be the prime minister of Palestine, and these 3 people will meet and say, we must have a state, Palestinian state, on the 1967 lines with East Jerusalem as capital, you know what Trump and Netanyahu will say? Terrorists related to bin Laden, not good to govern Palestinians. Because Jared Kushner last week said, if these Palestinians accept what we offer, they're decent, good, able to govern Palestinians. If they refuse what we offer, they're corrupt, not fit to govern. And for 37 meetings, they did not share a sentence with me about what they want. And by the way, not me alone. Your prime minister asked to see, your foreign minister, Saudis, Egyptians, Jordanians, Chinese, South Africans, everyone asked them, share with us. No, you must trust us. And it is particularly special for me to say this here, in the land of Lord Balfour, whose declaration began a process of disposition that's being advanced today by the Trump administration. George Anthonius, a Lebanese, British civil servant, and eventually, as I like to refer to him, also a diplomat that served the cause of Palestine, was a pragmatist. This position allowed him to play various roles, including the one of mediator. When it came to the issues of his own faith within the Orthodox Patriarchate of Jerusalem and the struggle of the Palestinian congregation to get their rights respected, but this pragmatism did not make him compromise on the basic principle of justice. The 8th lesson I learned is that any relations between anyone on this earth, individuals, friends, husbands and wives, deans, heads of departments, their colleagues, nation states, units, No relation can survive if the F-A-I-R is absent. No relation will ever survive if it's not fair. Not on the individual basis, not on the national basis. And I want to say also that no one in their sane mind should think that Palestinians will surrender. Palestinians are 99% literacy rate by the end of 2018. Palestinians will not compromise their basic rights. And no one should ask and demand and test Palestinians to compromise and give up on their basic rights. You have a choice. You're 194 nations with flags, national carriers, symbolism, I don't know what you call it. I want to be like you. If you don't want me to be like you, then you have to be like me. Give up these concepts, symbolism, if anything. But if you expect that I will be the exception in this world, think again. Those 30 years have been years of genuine work, of creativity, of suffering, of pain. And I think it's much, much easier to wage war than to make peace. But we have not compromised on the basic principles of justice, the rule of law, international law. I said to some of your colleagues in your office, Professor, that the mistakes I made in these 30 years, you can bring 6 PhD candidates to do PhDs on them. I'm not saying we're perfect. But honestly, we don't wake up in the morning as Palestinians and say, today we are going to commit the following mistakes. For God's sakes, we're 20 years older than her. We have an overloaded wagon of complexities. Sometimes we don't differentiate between freedom of expression and incitement. We need help. But in Palestine, irrespective of the amount of mistakes that happened, Palestinians are not demanded to see with the eyes of their leaders or to hear through their ears or to speak through their tongues. Palestine will be a country based on the rule of law, women's rights, human rights, accountability, transparency. We have 26 political parties. One of them is called Hamas. And to them, we can't exclude them. They can't exclude us. What we're offering them today is that when we differ, and we differ, we go to ballots and not bullets. We need elections. We need elections, general elections, more than any time before. See, today in Arab major capitals, we speak about Shiites and Sunnis. The Muslim Brotherhood are the products of the Sunnis. They're against us as Palestinian National Movement. They continued the coup d'etat of Gaza. And unfortunately, the Shiites, Iran, are also against us. Because I learned, number 9, the big difference between serving Palestine and using Palestine. I know that I will not wake up one morning and find Tehran next to Buenos Aires or Alaska. I know the political geography. But I once had a conversation with one of the leaders in the UN. And I tell the gentleman, I refrain to mention his name, out of respect. From 1967 till 1979, the Shah of Iran did not build a classroom in Gaza or the West Bank or Jerusalem. And the Islamic Republic of Iran did not build a classroom or a hospital bed in the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem. Why do you need to talk about canceling Israel off the map? Why can't you talk about adding Palestine to the map? That's what serves me. Why do you need to give bags of money to this Palestinian faction and that faction so we can be fragmented and we can have coup d'etats? And he answered me very calmly, very decently, very respectfully. Oh, Qom and Tehran don't ring bells in Iranian minds or ticks in Iranian hearts. We have a Jerusalem Day and a Palestine army. They want the Palestinian cause. It's not enough what they're doing in Yemen, Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, Gaza. I hope that everyone here will understand that the real threat on Arabs are Arabs. We have not compromised in the principle of justice, fairness, international law, because we want peace that can survive the test of time. We are looking to the day after. They've been trying to force peace on me since I was 12 years old when the occupation came to my hometown, Jericho. Settlements, dictation, collective punishments, apartheid, extrajudicial killing, whatever. Demolishing of homes. And they have been repeating it on the hour, every hour, for 52 years since the occupation of 1967. And none of them have read the definition of Einstein to madness. Repeating the same thing with the same ingredients and expecting different results. This is a message that everyone interested in achieving peace in the Middle East should understand. This is not about asking the weak to compromise. It's compromise. But to make the occupier adhere to the basic principles of international law that any other nation should respect, including Israel, because we will never accept Israel as a country above the laws of man. Madam Tzivi Hotvili, the Deputy Foreign Minister of Israel, said yesterday and asked people in the audience in New York, Jerusalem Post International Conference, to mark her words, that from River Jordan to the west, there'll be only one country, one nation state called Israel. Which Israel did you ask me to recognize? And you demanded that I recognize. And if this is the fact, that the only thing will be Israel, so it could be, the conclusion will be either I'll be a slave or an Israeli citizen. Israeli citizens, I'm not. So it's enslavement. And Palestinians, every 25 years in their national history, had made a change of course. We will not surrender. But there are those of us who still believe that things can change. Because if not this year, in 100 years, it's going to be a two-state solution in 1967. Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure.